Dreams have have to happen in your life. You have to believe that things can happen. You have to believe that things can be transformed. What's happening between your ears is so important. It motivates you. There are people that literally, because they had a dream or they believed something, lived longer until they saw it happen in their lives. There are people that wanted grandchildren, or they were determined to see their great-grandchildren come into the world, and they stayed just long enough to see one because that was a dream of theirs, because that was a desire in their heart. They saw themselves being a grandparent or a great-grandparent, and so they stayed around long enough, even though their body may have. Hi everybody, Lee Scott here. Thank you for watching and are listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee, where we talk about life, leadership, and legacy, and want to help you unleash your capacity and level of leadership. I'm so excited that you are here for this week's episode. But before I say anything else, if you have not done it, go and subscribe to Leading with Lee on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. Now, you know, in every single episode of Leading with Lee, I like to give my definition of leadership. So I'll do it right now before I get into today's subject. So my definition of leadership is I believe that leadership is seeing something that has not happened yet and taking people, organizations, and personal processes in that direction. I believe that leadership is seeing something that has not happened yet and taking people, organizations, and personal processes in that direction. Today, I want to look at someone that I've admired for a significant period of time in my life. My favorite president in American history is actually the 26th president of the United States, Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt was such a tenacious individual, and I've talked about him before on here, how he was a part of the Rough Riders, and he was Secretary of the Navy, and he, during his presidency, was a significant force in the Western hemisphere of our world. He actually was known for this phrase, carrying a big stick. And history has remembered him in various ways for that policy of imperialism that really impacted Western world and pretty much set up the next century of how we've seen Central and South America, and even some of our policies today have been affected. But there's one aspect of his legacy that I want to focus on today that has been tremendous in nature and will be actually pivotal to the subject that we're going to talk about today. And he has a tremendous legacy in his presidency when it comes down to conservation. As we well know, he was the most significant conservation president we've ever had in American history. During his presidency, he actually pushed the Congress to preserve huge swaths of America, like Yellowstone Park and the Rocky Mountains in many ways, the Grand Canyon, all these different landscapes that we revel in the beauty of here in America. And there's one thing he said about nature, and I want to read this quote to you today. He says, the United States at this moment occupies a lamentable position as being perhaps the chief offender among civilized nations in permitting the destruction and pollution of nature. Our whole modern civilization is at fault in that matter, but we in America are probably most at fault. We treasure photos and sculpture. We regard antique temples and Roman triumphal arches and Gothic cathedrals as priceless value, but we are, as a whole, still in that low state of civilization where we do not understand that it is also vandalism broadly to destroy or permit the destruction of what is beautiful in nature, whether it is a cliff, a forest, a species of mammal or bird. Here in the United States, we turn our rivers and streams into sewers and dumping ground, and we pollute the air. We destroy forests and exterminate fish, birds, and mammals, not to speak of charming landscapes with hideous advertising. Now, he has some really harsh words to say about America's position when it comes down to protecting our landscape, but he was laser focused on this one aspect of what he believed that our country needed. And he believed that conservation was at the center of the story. And he did all of this work to literally focus America on recognizing that nature was beautiful. And which leads me to my topic today, which I think will really inspire you. We're going to talk about dreams today. And here's my topic: a singular focus, tenacity towards dreams, tenacity towards dreams. So I have 4 points today that I really want to give to you that I think will be helpful in this conversation as we talk about dreams and thinking about how we show up in the world and how we operate, because dreams are super important. And we see from Teddy's quote that he really believed that his singular view of protecting nature was everything to him. So let's get to 4 points. The first point is, what is a dream? The second point today is, why is dreaming important? Thirdly, we're going to talk about what are the costs for dreaming? And lastly, what are the consequences of not having a dream? So let's deal with the first one. What is a dream? Webster defines a dream as a series of thoughts, images, and sensations occurring in one's mind during sleep. It's giving the basic definition of what a dream is. It also goes on to say it's a cherished aspiration, ambition, or ideal. I did some research on some stats as it relates to dreaming and how it impacts us. And the Winston Medical Center has a few facts. And it said that first, you have no sense of smell when you're sleeping. Secondly, you burn more calories when sleeping than you do when you're watching television. It says number 3, sleeping less than 7 hours each night reduces your life expectancy. Babies start dreaming even before they are born, which I thought was very fascinating. And an average person has over 1,460 dreams a year, which is about 4 dreams every night. So all of us, from a natural standpoint, from a psychological standpoint, are dreaming of something. You and I, whether you believe it or not, are actually thinking about things in our sleep. We are processing information in our sleep that helps us determine what we're going to do in our lives, what we're going to do in the day, what we're going to do in the spaces that we are in. And we're actually processing what we're thinking about. And in defining this, I wonder if we actually have considered that our dreams have a way of shaping our beliefs about ourselves, that our dreams have a way of informing what we are going to focus on, what we think about, what we are trying to accomplish in our world. And as we talk today, as we have this conversation about dreams, I hope that you'll be inspired to really consider what is happening in between your 2 ears, what is happening in your mind that is bringing you into these spaces and causing you to be the person that you are today. Which leads me to my second point of why dreaming is important. There's an article that I was looking at that was written by Dr. Jason Holland, and he gave 5 interesting points that I just want to bring to light today. He says, first, that dreams reflect recent life concerns. He says that dreams are likely to incorporate events from the prior day or two. It is basically a phenomenon that we refer to as the day residual effect, day residue effect. So a lot of times, if you look back at your dreams, it may include aspects of things that you experienced in the day before. Now, if you take a moment and think about it, ask yourself, how has this happened to you? Have you recalled things that were happening in the day before, or recall things that have happened in your life, or does dreams seem repetitive to you in some way, shape, or fashion? And Dr. Holland really believes that this is something that tends to happen. We tend to dream about or over exaggerate an experience that we had actually in our lives, in our subconscious. That in our subconscious mind, there's something that happens when we are sleeping that causes us to have to reflect and think about, okay, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot happening in my space and in my life, and causing me to have to really process what's going on with me. And that's super important for us to recognize in this conversation. The second thing he talks about is that emotions play an important role in dreams. He says that having a high level of emotions associated with dreams, whether positive or negative, are likely to show up in our dreams. This is where we get the phenomenon of nightmares from. That there's some there that if you had a bad day and you were having a dream, if you had a bad day, it's very likely that when you are dreaming, your dreams are going to be negative because that those emotions that you have experienced, so that anxiety or fear or whatever that you experienced from that day goes with you into your sleep. If you have a great day, if you had a wonderful experience, if you experience some solace and beauty and greatness in your day, there's very likely when you have a dream, it's going to show up in your dreams. You're going to have serenity in your dreams because that is a part of the aspect of dreaming. Your emotions show up in your dreams. I remember an experience that I had. I was stressed out about a lot of things that have been going on in my life as far as work was concerned and different things like that. And there's this recurring dream that people say that they often have where they feel like they're falling. Well, generally, that falling dream would happen around times where I was stressed out or anxious. And it happened because I had not de-escalated. I had not got the rest that I needed. I had not gotten the things that I needed in order for me to dream better. And it actually showed up when I was asleep. And it caused me to have a lot of stuff going on in my sleep pattern. He says, number 3, that sleeps help consolidates memories. Now, I thought this was very fascinating. He says, from this perspective, dreams may then be a thought of rehashing what is important and needs to be remembered. I thought this was a pretty fascinating position because what it indicates to me is that your brain has the ability to bring things into focus that actually will be valuable to you, or it sometimes can bring things into focus to help protect you from certain things in your life. That those dreams actually have a way of reorganizing our thoughts, reorganizing what's happening in our cerebral cortex and causing us to have a better memorization of stuff that matters to us, or better memorization of what is happening around us. And this is pretty powerful because I think that our memories, I talk about memories a lot and the mind a lot here on Leading, because I think that your mind is a powerful aspect of transforming your life. I'm learning a lot of information right now that my mind is being stretched to a new dimension because now I'm having to remember a lot of stuff. And it's a byproduct of the exposure that I'm having in my life. And it's very powerful to experience this because we need our brains to hold information that matters. And your brain has this tendency to refocus or rehash or look at the things that have happened in your life in a more positive or even in a more concise way. Fourth thing he talks about is dreams may help forecast the future. Now, we know this to be true. I was literally having a conversation with one of my coworkers and friends who I've known for at least a year or two, that she mentioned that her mother was having dreams about fish. Now, that is a old wise tale connected to that generally, if somebody has dreams about fish, you may have heard this, that dreaming about fish, if a family dreams about fish, that means somebody's getting pregnant soon. Now, we don't know if there's any evidence to that, but that is something that tends to happen. And Holland quotes a sleep expert, and he says that our brains are primed during sleep by our dreams to spot non-obvious problematic patterns of behavior, problematic patterns of experience and events. So he talks about that there's probability that may happen during our sleep. That there are some considerations of things that could possibly happen. It happens to you in your sleep. It happens when you are trying to rest. That it can literally forecast the future. And to my friend who said it, we'll see what happens with that situation. But But that is a real thing, that a lot of times people will have dreams about stuff that happened before they happen. I remember my brother telling me about my girlfriend, in my current girlfriend, that he actually had a dream about this situation in some way, shape, or fashion before he ever met her. That he had a dream about something like this happening to his brother. Now, whether it's true or not, or whether it's connected or not, is beside the point. The point I'm making is dreams has a way of informing what we see happen in our lives. And because he had that dream, he expressed it to me and say, "Hey man, I dreamed about this, and I think this is what that is." And maybe you're listening to me, or watching this right now, you're saying, "Lee, well, I don't know if that's particularly true, but I want to give to you a way to think about your life in a different way, that maybe if you allow yourself to dream a little bit more, you could see your life differently and see yourself in a more positive way." And my last one, as it relates to this point, it says that symbolism or symbolic meaning in dreams is highly personal. As I shared about my brother, him sharing that with me about a dream that he had was very personal. It was something connected to someone he loved. It was it was connected to a person that he cares profoundly about. And him having that dream, him having that moment where this experience actually informed what he thought was happening in his brother's life, led him to have a conversation with me, because Holland quotes this expert again. He says, experience or things are associated in the mind, so that's brain, when their meaning is the same or similar. For humans, meaning is often personally specific. My brother Jordan told me this because it was specific to me, his older brother. A lot of times when we recognize that this is a reality, we can see how that will inform or impact the way we operate or think about ourselves, the way we show up in the world, the way we talk about issues, the way we engage on issues, because our dreams have a way of impacting how we view stuff. My brother having a dream encouraged me in that way. My brother having a dream actually made me believe that what I was thinking about, what was important to me, was going to happen. And he was right. It did happen. I did meet my girlfriend. I did encounter this woman that he had not met yet, and it clicked in his brain for him. And that's important for you to understand, is that your dreams have a way of shaping who you are. Your dreams have a way of doing important things. And you may be saying to yourself, well, why are dreams important? Well, dreams have to happen in your life. You have to believe that things can happen. You have to believe that things can be transformed. What's happening between your ears is so important. It motivates you. There are people that literally, because they had a dream or they believed something, lived longer until they saw it happen in their lives. There are people that wanted grandchildren, or they were determined to see their great-grandchildren come into the world, and they stayed just long enough to see one, because that was a dream of theirs, because that was a desire in their heart. They saw themselves being a grandparent or a great-grandparent, and so they stayed around long enough, even though their body may have not been able to hold them up. Their mind and their will and the thing that was in them kept them alive, because they had a dream. What am I saying to you before we go to the break? Is that you cannot diminish the impact of what's happening in your brain. You cannot diminish the impact of what is happening when you believe that things are possible. You have to have a singular focus. This is what we're talking about, having a singular focus, and be tenacious enough to believe that it can happen. Because we also see this happen in so many other ways with folks in our culture, in our society, where because they didn't dream about things, because they didn't believe that things could happen. And we're going to talk a little bit more after the break. But because they didn't believe, they saw stuff happen with their body and with their mentality. I'm going to take a break right here, and we'll be right back after this message. Hi, everybody. Lee here, and I want to give some information to you.
Do you need someone to host an event or come and speak at your event? You can now book yours truly. Book me for your event by visiting www.leeascott.com. I am so excited to connect with you and do work with you. Much love, and let's get started.
And we are back. Thank you for still being here as we talk about this powerful subject of dreaming today and having the tenacity to keep dreaming. I hope that you've been inspired so far as we relate to this topic, because I think this is going to help you keep moving forward. So the next point that I have for you is, what is the cost for dreaming? What does it cost to dream? Floyd McKissick, he was a civil rights leader and the president of the Congress of Racial Equity, or CORE as it's commonly known as, was somebody who had a tenacious and incredible dream. This man was involved in hugely involved in the civil rights movements of the 1950s and 60s. And he played a critical role in shaping a lot of policy stuff that was happening in America at the time. But towards the end of the civil rights movement, as we know, historically, a lot of great leaders started to pass on, and some of them lost their lives in the process. And one thing that we start to see was a divergence among leaders, particularly in the African American movement, that there were more leaders that moved towards driving home the idea of Black power and driving home the idea that the system needed to be dismantled because it did not include, but it also undermined the ability for Black wealth or Black advancement to happen in America. Well, McKissick had a different view. McKissick believed that America should figure out a way to invest in Black capitalism or Black entrepreneurship. And so he took on the task of doing something unprecedented, especially in the 1960s. He approaches the federal government to support an idea to found a community in Warren County, North Carolina. Now, this area of Warren County, North Carolina, obviously used to be plantation land. It used to be a land where slaves were living. And he literally went to the federal government at the time and said, hey, support me in starting an effort to create this place called Soul City, North Carolina. And in this effort, he, through his company, actually was able to get business partnerships and federal money in order to develop this. He actually got a grant from the U.S. Department of Urban Development, and they actually HUD got involved in this project to work to build and establish a multiracial city as a haven of economic development, because McKissick believed that this was going to be the way that transformed the lives of so many people. He actually wanted to create a homing development in that area. He was trying to create a tech hub. He wanted to create parks and recreational spaces that were available to folks that lived in that city. And over time, he faced some opposition, especially in the likes of the senator from North Carolina at the time, Jesse Helms. Jesse Helms was vehemently against this self-determination effort. And even we saw in the local press, there were a lot of misrepresentation of the project that McKissick was trying to carry out. And due to McKissick's effort, we saw how this project did not end up reaching its full potential, that they were accused of mismanaging funds and all these different things. And that led to people pulling out their money to support the project. And ultimately didn't happen because of those individuals and their belief that this should not happen or it should not be supported. But I want to point out the value of McKissick having the courage to do this. McKissick, despite dealing with a U.S. senator who literally historically fought against the efforts of the advancement of Black people in America and even people of color in America, McKissick believed that this project was necessary and needed in order to move his community forward. And you may be listening to this or watching this right now, and you're saying, Lee, you're talking about the cost of a dream, and you're saying, man, man, if this man had all the resources and had the connections, he even got had built relationships and connections with people in both political parties. He had gotten the support of Bobby Kennedy, and then Kennedy lost his life. He had gotten the support of Lyndon Johnson, but Lyndon Johnson decided not to run president. And even he got the support of President Nixon to support this project. But even in the midst of all of that, he still had people trying to stop him from doing what he needed to do. And I think this is important for you to keep in mind, that there are going to be times where in your dreaming, in your believing that something must happen or something must be fulfilled or something must be done as it relates to an issue, there will be people, just for the sake of being against you, they will do everything in their power to stop you from fulfilling your dream. Not because they necessarily need to stop you. They just didn't think that you should do it. Or there may be people who need to become believers over time. They need to see it in action. They've been disappointed so many times before that they don't even know if they have the right to have faith or believe that it could happen again, because they've been let down over and over and over again. And some people have become apathetic in the process, that they don't think that these things can happen for them. And I know that there are individuals that will be listening to watching this and saying, Lee, I don't get why you're bringing this up. I don't get why you're telling me to try again. I don't get why you're saying that dreaming is actually important. Well, I'm telling you right now, even though McKissick's dream didn't come to fruition, there were nuggets of that and things that we can learn from the courage that man had, that man had the courage to actually say, you know what, I'm going to do this project. And for many years, even after losing federal funding and different things like that, he continued to do what he needed to do to make this community happen. And still to this day, if you go to Warren County, North Carolina, you would actually see some of the places that they actually got a chance to build. And there are people that still live in that community. There are people that are still engaged in that community. Yet we are here today. And we can see that though it did not come to full fruition, there was some movement made on it. And for some of us, that just needs to happen. We need to see some movement on some projects. We need to see a step, as we saw last week and 2 weeks ago when we had Charles Welks on here. He said something very profound. He made mention that incremental progress is necessary and needed for people to keep believing. We get into this all or nothing mentality about stuff that we simply forget that we need every single step to happen, that people just need some level of progress. People just need some level of encouragement to keep going. People just need to see that there is some more possibility. And you may be watching this and listening to this right now. You're saying to yourself, Lee, I've tried this before. Lee, I've tried to make these things happen before. And I get that. There are so many things I've tried before. There's so many opportunities that I've had starts and stops. But I was determined and tenacious enough to say, you know what? Though it did not happen right then, or though it's not happening the way that I envisioned, it's actually worth me going after it. It's actually worth me making the sacrifices necessary to get to the goal that I have. And many of us need that encouragement. We need to be reminded that it's going to take you doing some stuff, man. Sir, ma'am, it's going to take you doing some stuff. It's going to take you having the courage to do some things in order for you to reach your goals. And dreamers have to recognize this, that everybody won't see your dream, but you have to have the courage to do something by yourself. You got to be able to do it by yourself. You got to be able to move forward when people don't see it yet. You got to be able to step up to the plate and do what you need to do when people have not come on board yet. Because you have to have courage and move forward. I'm getting my last point, and then I'm gonna get you out of here. And I hope that you've been inspired for most of the season, because one of the things that is core to leading from where you are is having courage and having this ability to recognize that I gotta go after stuff that may seem odd to other people, may not make sense in the grand scheme of my life. It may not be congruent with what I've experienced in my life, or congruent with my family history or my story or my background or where I come from, my socioeconomic status. It may not be congruent with any of those things in my life, but it may be the the step that needs to be taken in order for our family's trajectory to be changed. Like literally, you could be the linchpin that literally changes the trajectory of your life and your family's life. You literally could be the deviation that puts them on a more positive path. You literally could. But you have to see yourself in a more positive way. And which leads me to my last point of what are the consequences of you not having a dream? What if you sit back and don't step up to the plate or even consider yourself as a part of the answer to problems in your society and culture? What if you just sit back and become apathetic and disengage from the process? Because let's be very clear before I get into the details of my point. There are people that are banking on you not stepping up or actually being engaged in what's happening around you. There are people banking on you not engaging in the process because they know that they can benefit from your disengagement. They know that they can benefit from you not actually doing something that is important for your own life. They know this. They know it. They know without a shadow of a doubt that if they can figure out how to stop you, if they can figure out how to ensure that you don't do what you're supposed to do, they got you beat. They know this. They know they can do everything in their power if nobody's preventing them from doing it. What if you just made a conscious effort to do something different? What if you made a conscious effort today to dream and think in a more positive way about your life? I was literally at a meeting last week here in the city of Jackson. The public transportation commissioner for the Central Mississippi District was holding a public forum for folks in the city of Jackson. And I was so fascinated by being there. There were several different people that were there. A lot of people from the community, other elected officials were there. And he said something that has ringed in my ear for the last few days. It has stuck with me and it troubled me in many ways, but it has given me hope of about what we can possibly do. He stated that he has, because of several legislation that have passed through the federal government, there is millions of dollars that he has at his disposal to fulfill projects and improve the quality of areas in the Jackson his district, but he even has dollars that he is willing to allocate to areas of Jackson. And one thing he said was the problem he's dealing with right now is no one has brought him a plan. No one has gotten together and said, hey, senators, hey, representatives, hey, county board of supervisors, hey, city council, hey, mayor, let's talk about what we want to ask for that would improve the quality of life of people that live in our city, in our county, in our communities. And he literally said in this meeting, in many ways, and I'm not going to say exactly what he said, but he articulated in this meeting that if you can give him the information that is needed in order for this project to be fulfilled, and it's within his purview, he will fund it. He literally said, I have the money to fund projects. If you create the plan, you send it to me, you make sure it's in my hand, you make sure it goes to my office and make sure all the information is on there and everything that we need is clear, I will fund the project because I have the finances to fund it. Now, this troubled me in some way because it lets me know that obviously there are leaders in my city and my community that are not communicating enough. They're not engaging enough to where somebody like the transportation commissioner has to come and say, hey, if you ask me, I'll do it. How many of us in our own lives, because we don't have a dream or because we hadn't come with a plan or because we hadn't actually wrote down what we were thinking about, are missing out on opportunities to get those dreams fulfilled? Because we weren't willing to have the courage to dream. He literally said in this meeting, I will fund it if you dream about it. I will fund it if you give me a concrete plan of what you can do. And here's the thing. I'm invited to my neighborhood association. And so people in my neighborhood association are looking at this effort and saying, oh, no, we need to figure out how to get him to fund some stuff in our community. He did it to talk to neighborhood associations. He did it to share with people in our community that, hey, I have access and I want to give it to you. What are you missing out on because you are unwilling to dream or believe that you can have access to stuff that you need? I know it's hard. Trust me, I understand it's difficult in this world. It's difficult living in this world right now. There is a variety of things that are happening in our world, literally right now as I speak. Right now as I speak, there's so many things happening. Internationally, there are things are happening in parts of the world that is disconcerting and heartbreaking, that is gut-wrenching, that is challenging our leaders to have some thoughtfulness about what policy position they're going to take. There are things that's happening here in America that at the local, at the county, at the state, at the federal level, that are really difficult things to figure out. But it takes people having a dream and having a belief that things can happen and having the courage to say, you know what, I'm going to put my dream to paper. I'm going to talk to the people I need to talk to in order for that thing to come to pass. I'm going to have the courage to say some stuff. I'm going to have the courage to talk to some people and engage people through the process of getting things done. One thing that Charles talked about that is so true, that we have to be accountable when it comes down to the things we want to see happen. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to hold our communities accountable. We have to hold leaders accountable to do the things that they say they were going to do. I can't keep dealing with individuals who spend all their time talking about their opponents, but you never tell me what you want to do on my behalf. You never tell me how you're going to make things happen and improve my quality of life. Because that's what most people want to hear. What are you going to do on my behalf? What are you going to advocate on my behalf? What are you going to fight for me as a person, as an individual? Are you going to do something for my kids? Are you going to do something for my family? Are you going to do something for my community? It's not about talk. It's about what is your concrete plan and who are you going to talk to and how are you going to engage others as it relates to this issue? Because that's what matters. That's what people need from us. And that's what is at issue here when we talk about having dreams. And you got to be tenacious enough. You got to have the drive to make stuff happen. We see it in sports all the time. How there are individuals who have literally gotten their mind. They said, listen, I might have lost this race. I might have not got that chance. I might have failed to get some things happen. But this will be the last time you see me fail. We saw it happen with Sha'Carri Richardson, the sprinter who literally in 2019 and 2020, we were expecting her to have an explosive season and have an explosive Olympics. But because she got into some trouble, because of some rules and things that happened with the Olympic Committee, she wasn't able to participate in the Olympics in 2020, which they did in 2021. But she wasn't able to participate. But that setback for her didn't stop her. She's come back and set more world records. She lost a few races early on, but she came back and said, you know what? I know all of y'all are talking about all these things around me, and there's all these opinions around me, but I'm motivated to make my dreams come true. I'm going to keep running to make my mother proud who's not here. I'm going to keep running to make my family proud and folks that are close to me so proud because I believe that I can achieve my dream. And with that being said, we think she's going to do it. Don't be surprised if she breaks some world records next year at the Olympics. Why? Because she had the dream to do it. And I'm going to end on this quote. I'm going to end with a Teddy Roosevelt quote. And he says this, and I thought this was very profound. He said, be practical as well as generous in your idea. Be practical as well as generous in your ideas. Keep your eyes on the stars, but remember to keep your feet on the ground. In other words, keep looking up. Be planted in your belief about what is possible. Be 10 toes down in your belief, but keep looking to the stars and saying the goal is to get there. We're going to achieve something that we have not seen before. We're going to change the trajectory of what people believe is possible in our society and our culture. And here's the reality. A lot of times the standard changes when somebody achieves the goal. It was impossible until somebody achieves it. That's how it works. Everything is impossible till somebody achieves the goal of making it possible. And when they achieve the goal of making it possible, that becomes the new standard. That becomes the new thing we measure by everything else. Will you have the courage to do that in your own life? Will you do something that becomes the new standard by which other people are impacted by? And I hope that you will recognize that you can do that. I want you to say this out loud. I am the new standard. Because it starts with you dreaming it. You got to dream and believe that you can be the new standard. I can't do that for you. No one else can do it for you. You got to dream that you're the new standard. That's how we're going to change our world. That's how we're going to make a difference. That's how we're going to actually succeed as a society. Is having people that have the courage and the tenacity to dream. I'm hoping that you were inspired by this episode, because our next guest is going to be really powerful and encouraging. And I'm super excited for you all to hear from her. And so come back next week. Come back in 2 weeks. And I can't wait for you to see the next episode or listen to the next episode of Leading with Lee. Much love. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. If you have not done it yet, subscribe on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. If you want to get more information and connect with me, visit me at www.leeascott.com or follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Lee A. Scott II or Lee A. Scott II. So thank you for watching. Much love, and let's get started.